What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Happy Saturday. We got a nice little five gamer tonight. Going to be breaking it down, going over my favorite early little core plays, talking through a game by game breakdown, all that good stuff in this video. So make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. Also, make sure to check out my prize picks video, which will be out a little bit after this. But we are 8-0 on that, back to back to back to back sweeps there. 2-0 every time, 8-0 overall. So that's been fantastic. So make sure to check that out. Hit that like button and subscribe. Greatly appreciate all you guys hitting that like button. And let's get into the video. So let's dive into this 5 game NBA slate for tonight. No recap. I didn't play last night. Just wanted to take the night off, watch the NCAA games. But we did have another clean sweep on the prize pick plays. So that was great there. Another 2-0 sweep, 8-0 overall on the past 4 videos. So should have another video out after this. We'll just have to wait and see what the board is like. So stay tuned for that. Make sure to hit that like button. And now let's get into this breakdown. So starting off here, we have Brooklyn versus Miami. Right now, the Vegas spread has all these games close. I think they're all within 5 points. So no blowout risk as of right now with any of these games. Brooklyn versus Miami, obviously kind of an ugly game environment here, a little bit slower pace. But the good thing with Brooklyn is they're playing their starters, the main 4 guys, huge minutes. So Dinwiddie playing huge minutes. He looks great here, 8,300. We know he has double double upside, as you can see. Past 4 out of 5 games, he's hit it. So that's been great there. Don't mind going to him. I mean, he's had huge upside. He's averaging close to like 45 fantasy points over the past like week and a half. So he looks good here, even a slower pace matchup. I really like Mikal Bridges. He was great for me last game. A little bit disappointing he didn't do more peripheral stat wise, but yeah, he looks very, very solid. They're clear number 1 option. So I like throwing him in my lineup as of right now. Claxton, a guy who's super popular on prize picks right now for today's game or tonight's game. The minutes have been better with him recently, which is a good sign, but there is that question mark still. Like maybe he could go out there if he's not doing well, play mid 20s, high 20s minutes, but he also has a chance to play mid to high 30s minutes and he could easily go off there. He's a super high energy guy, can get a double double, good at getting steals and blocks. So I don't mind him here at 6,600. I think it's a fair price. Not the best matchup versus Bam, but there is some foul trouble risk there, but I think he still looks solid just because of the minutes. Cam Johnson, just I think more of an okay play. The minutes should be mid 30s. He'll shoot the ball 10, 12 plus times. It just comes down to can he hit a shot? If he can, he should get you some rebounds, should get you some assists, maybe a steal or two. But yeah, it really comes down to can he hit his shots? If he can get you 40 plus. So 6,300, he's going to come in at pretty low ownership, but I just don't think there's a need to get to him. Royce O'Neal, I think he's a fine value play. Seeing more minutes just because DFS has been god awful. So yeah, I think Royce O'Neal looks fine at 5K. And then Darren Sharp, I guess you could take a dart throw on him. The minutes aren't a guarantee. Really comes down to if the game's a blowout or if Claxton's doing bad. And in foul trouble, they'll put in Darren Sharp. So that's really it. I'm really just sticking with the main 3 guys. Maybe going down to Royce O'Neal as well. And that's about it. Moving on to Miami. Miami side, it's kind of the same thing. It's really just, only interest in the main 3 guys. I think Jimmy has clearly been the best one since the All-Star break. The most consistent. He's really turned it up in terms of his just production. So I think he's going to come in at low ownership. People don't like paying above like 8,000 for Jimmy. So I do think he looks great there at 8,700. Bam, I think he looks pretty solid. Another guy who's super popular for prize picks today. Um, he plays an insane amount of minutes. It's just sometimes he just is not aggressive and is not really involved in the offense. And he struggles getting that double double upside there on DraftKings with those extra points. As you can see, he's only hit it once in the past 5 games. You throw in a few more games, he's like 2 for 10, pretty much, 2 for 12 when it comes to double double upside. So not the best, but we still know he has it. It's a solid matchup here, so I think he looks solid. And then Tyler Hero, kind of my third favorite option. It just comes down to can he hit his shots. He's been better shooting the ball recently. Before there's a huge stretch where he's like he'd either go 4 of 15 or like 15 of 25 and go for like 50 real life points. So I think it's solid. It's just super risky, super score independent. He's pretty much like the Cam Johnson play. Obviously, a little bit more involved with offense, doing a little bit better peripheral stat wise, but it's just I don't know. It's hard to get to him on this slate, but I don't mind it. He's definitely a guy who can easily nuke the slate if he's shooting the ball well. The not like big news, but the news here for Miami is obviously Caleb Martin and Kyle Lowry. If Martin's out, that is just more minutes for a guy like Struess, maybe a little bit more minutes for Love, Vincent Oladipo. they'll kind of sprinkle those few extra minutes to those guys. If he's in, I think he's a fair play at 4,300. Should see anywhere from like 20 to 30-ish minutes. Could easily get you there. Kyle Lowry, I don't mind him if he plays, should see about 25-ish minutes. He'd be an okay value play. But if he's out, that's just more minutes for Gabe Vincent, who starts, and then Victor Oladipo off the bench. I prefer getting to Victor there at 3,800, so watch out for that news. And then Kevin Love, I think he's a fair value play, seeing about mid-20s minutes. If he's hitting his threes, getting some rebounds, he could pay that off. Moving on to Milwaukee and Brooklyn. For the Milwaukee side, it's pretty simple. I mean, Giannis looks great here. The news is Chris Middleton. If he's in, you could land on one of these mid-range guys of like a Drew, Middleton, Brook. They look okay. Bobby would still be a solid GPP play off the bench. But if there's no Middleton, it's just more of a usage bump for guys like Holiday, Giannis, uh, Bobby off the bench. So Giannis just looks solid. Great spend up. Drew Holiday, I think, is a strong contrarian, upper mid-range option. We know he's upside. We're getting a decent matchup here. Minutes haven't been great the past 2 games because of the blowouts, but he should see about 35 to 40 in a close game. And I think he looks pretty solid there as a contrarian spend up. So I do have a good amount of interest in both of them. And I have a good amount of interest in Bobby Portis here. It's kind of the same thing with he's like a Melink monk. Like minutes aren't always a guarantee, but even in low minutes, he could easily go off. Right here, 22 minutes, only 18 against Utah, but before that, 25, 36, almost a 40 bomb. So I do like Bobby Portis a good amount here against Denver. I think he looks pretty solid. And then sure, you can land on like a Brook Lopez, but don't love the price tag there. Moving on to the Denver side here. At the top, Jokic, 11-3, way too cheap here. Even in this tough matchup, I love him. I love Jamal Murray as well. Should see 35 plus minutes. He's been great. If you want to gain leverage on the field, I always preach this. You can easily play Jamal Murray and Jokic together. It doesn't really affect each other's ceiling, so I like both of them a lot here. I'm going to throw both of them in for now. I think Porter Jr., Gordon, Caldwell Pope, all strong secondary options. If I had to land on one, it'd probably be Gordon, even though MPJ has been the better of the three recently, and just in terms of scoring, getting rebounds. So you can definitely go to them. I don't mind them. I just prefer getting to Murray or Jokic, and that's about it. Moving on to Philadelphia. The big news here is Harden and possibly Embiid. Embiid played last night against the Warriors, played 38 minutes. So it could be a chance where on this back-to-back, they rest Embiid and they bring Harden back. But yeah, right now, the news there is Harden's questionable. Obviously, if he is out, Embiid looks even better. Maxey looks great. Harris looks great. Melton looks great. Would probably want at least one, if not two, maybe even three of those players. Now, if Harden's back, Embiid and Harden are really only my priorities. Sure, you can land on one of the secondary options, but really just feel comfortable just getting into Embiid and Harden. On the Phoenix side, it's really just going to be Booker, Ayton, Paul for me. Booker, obviously a great spin up there, 10K. His ownership should be pretty low. If Ayton plays, I do like him as a contrarian spin up option. Obviously, there's that foul risk guarding Embiid, but he looked pretty solid there at 7,400. Should be heavily involved in offense. And then Chris Paul, I think is my favorite play here at 7,200. Sometimes he's just not aggressive, but we know he has really solid upside with the assists there. So I think it looks good at 7,200. Josh Okogie just not seen the minutes recently. So he's basically Craig, Shamit, Biyombo, Lando. Really no interest in any of these guys. Maybe take a dart throwing campaign, but right now just mainly focus on the main three guys. Moving on to Utah and the Kings. Great game environment here. Obviously, the big news is Laurie and Clarkson. Clarkson hasn't played pretty much all month, so I wouldn't expect him to be back. We'll have to wait and see. I think Laurie could be back for this game. If he is, I really, really, really like him. Just a fantastic matchup. I mean, he's been fantastic all year. Always comes in at super low ownership, and we know he has huge upside. 60 there, 61 there. So I like Laurie if he plays, and that's the big news there. If he's out, it's just more of a bump for guys like THT, Kessler, Olenek, Dunn, Abaji, Fontecchio. Obviously, Sexton and Rudy Gay are questionable. I mean, I doubt they'll be back. We'll have to wait and see. If Sexton is back, no minutes limit. I do really like him at that price tag. He'd probably start 4,800. He'd probably be the best play on these slates. So that's the big news there. We have to wait for the Laurie and Sexton news. Moving on to Sacramento. The big news here is Fox. He left that game last night with the right hamstring soreness. So if he's out, they'll probably start, I would assume, Davion Mitchell, which sure you could play him. He picked up the minutes off the bench there. He's playable. That's all I'll say is he's playable. We saw one game where he got close to 30 fantasy points. We know he has like 3 fantasy point upside even in like 20 minutes. So just a super risky play, but he is playable. It should be more minutes for a guy like Malik Monk, but we know it's not a guarantee there. Only played 19 minutes. He's a wild GPP play. Terrence Davis, kind of the same thing, a wild GPP play. Those would be the two guys I'd look to if there's no Fox. Now, if there's Fox, really just want to focus on Sabonis and Fox and great matchup. Herter, Murray, Barnes, Monk, they'd all still be fine secondary options, but we'd really just want to focus on the main two. They look great there. And then moving on to the Pelicans and the Clippers. On the Pelican side, Ingram and CJ are just too expensive for me. They just be fine secondary options. Ingram's coming off that triple double. J Val has been seeing great minutes, but I can see this game being a game where he just doesn't play the minutes. Either he's in foul trouble or they just, Clippers go small and J Val just gets run off the court. Trey Murphy's questionable. If he's out, should just be more minutes for a guy like Herb Jones and maybe Josh Richardson starts. If he starts, I'd like him there at that price tag 4,200. He'd be a great value play. And then you could always take a dart throw on Larry Nance and just hope J Val gets foul trouble. I don't recommend it, but it's an option. And then moving on to the Clippers, obviously no Paul George, so Kawhi looks great there as a spend up. Russ looks decent, 8,200. The minutes weren't great. Saul barely 30 minutes, but he was still productive, so I don't mind going to him once again. We know he has huge upside, but he has been a little bit more restrained when it comes to his production. Um, Zubac, I think he looks fine. Obviously, you're going to have to guard J Val. Could be a Zubac game. He's always solid in GPPs. Man was pretty solid off the bench, but he came off the bench. Eric Gordon started, wasn't the best. So, I mean, sure, you can land on these guys. My favorite would probably be Man. Plumlee, you could take a dart throw on him, but don't love that. Bones, what he played 26 minutes. I wouldn't be surprised if he's super popular. But I mean, he did get some extra minutes there because of the blowouts, like 5 to 6 extra minutes. So I don't know. It's just right now, I'd really just prefer getting to Man, maybe taking a shot on Zubac, but then really just focusing on Kawhi and Russ. And that's going to do it for today, guys. One more core play, we'll throw it in. So we have 4 for today. Let's see here. We got Jamal Murray, we got Jokic, we got Bridges. Let's see. What else do we want here? I think I'm going to land on, let's just go for a cheaper end guy. Like around 5K. We'll go for, obviously there's some big news there with Sexton. Obviously with Monk, or excuse me, De'Aaron Fox that could lead us to Monk. But right now, I'm just going to land on, we'll go to Josh Richardson. Potentially with that Herb Jones or Trey Murphy news. So let's wait and see. But as of right now, the core plays are going to be Jamal Murray, Jokic, and Bridges. And the fourth one will be Josh Richardson. But obviously, it's dependent on injury news. This could all change. So make sure to hit that like button. Check out my Price Fix video later, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.